My name is Dr. Emily Harper, and I was told to stay away for the holidays. The call came 4 days before Christmas. I had just returned from an exhausting shift at the clinic, still managing a faint smile as I glanced at the suitcase by my door. I had picked out gifts for everyone, including the time-seasoned stuffing ingredients they loved but never credited me for preparing. I'd even bought a new emerald scarf, cozy, understated, festive without being overdone. Just right, when my phone lit up with my younger brother Caleb's name, I thought he was calling to ask if I could bring extra plates or arrange rides as usual. Instead, he said, "Hey, so, Leela's coming to Christmas, yeah. She's really into vibes like the energy of a space, and with your job, it can feel kind of intense. I think for her comfort, it's better if you skip this one, it's not personal." I didn't argue. I didn't ask what he meant by intense. He didn't say, "You're a compassionate palliative care doctor who helps people face their final days with grace." No, just intense, like a stain on his curated social media feed. An hour later, my mom called. Her voice was gentle, like a whisper hiding a dagger. "Sweetheart, we're just trying to keep things smooth for everyone. You know how sensitive Leela is. If you show up, it might stir things up. Honestly, we might not let you in." That's when it hit me. I wasn't just uninvited, I was unwelcome. I didn't shout, I didn't weep. I just said, "Okay," hung up and opened my banking app. Mortgage contributions stopped. Car loan support paused. Emergency repair fund secured. I stopped being their unseen anchor. No social media rant, no text, just quiet. And for the first time, that quiet belonged to me. I used to think my family's treatment of me was normal. That maybe I was too driven, too serious, too much. Growing up, I was the eldest, the practice run, as my dad once quipped at a picnic before giving Caleb the larger burger. Caleb, the favored son, artistic, charismatic, the miracle child born after years of struggle. I was just the first. When Caleb was 7, he scribbled on the dining room walls with a Sharpie. My parents called it creative. When I chipped a plate while setting the table, I was clumsy and told to be more careful. Caleb brought home a participation certificate once, and it hung on the fridge for weeks. I earned straight A's and they'd say, "That's great," then tuck the report card away. Once I left my flawless transcript on the counter hoping someone would notice. No one did. When I got into medical school on my first try, no delays, no retries, I showed my mom the acceptance email. She said, "Wow, that's demanding. Be careful not to overdo it." When Caleb quit college for the 4th time to chase photography, they threw him a new beginnings party. Streamers, cupcakes, and a photo of him with a camera now hangs framed in their entryway, like he'd won a Nobel Prize. They always said he was sensitive, that he felt things deeply. I once found my journal in the trash under takeout menus. When I asked, they said they thought it was junk, but I kept pushing. I worked tirelessly. I graduated early. I got certified. I began caring for elderly patients, those overlooked, forgotten, left to fade alone. I gave them my time, my focus, my whole soul. At home, I gave just as quietly, fixed their leaky faucet, paid off a lingering roof repair bill without being asked, lent Caleb cash when his side hustle tanked, never asked for it back, never even brought it up. But none of it counted. In my family's eyes, Caleb was the light, and I, despite everything, was just the one who always showed up on time and never complained, until I didn't. There's a peculiar ache in being the one everyone depends on but no one truly sees. That was me, the problem solver, the supporter. The one who quietly paid for a new furnace when theirs broke in January. The one who covered an overdraft on my parents' account before they even noticed. The one who booked Caleb's flight home for Easter when he said he was short on funds after buying new lenses. And I never said no, not when my mom needed help with her medical bills, not when Caleb called from a parking lot because his car wouldn't start again. I replaced his battery that week. I was dependable. And I thought that meant I was cherished. But I started seeing the pattern. The way my efforts were invisible until they stopped. The way they forgot who helped but remembered who made things awkward. When I was there, I was too quiet, too focused, too heavy. When I wasn't, things were brighter, simpler, more fun. Still, I kept giving. Out of love, I told myself. Out of duty, perhaps, or maybe just habit. But that night, after they told me to skip Christmas, something in me changed. It wasn't anger. It was clarity. I opened my banking app and halted every automatic transfer. The $900 monthly mortgage supplement, gone. The emergency fund I kept for family crises, locked. The $1,500 Caleb still owed me. I knew it was gone forever, but I wouldn't send another dollar his way. They wouldn't notice immediately. That's the thing about being quietly essential. It's only when the support vanishes that people realize it was ever there. I didn't announce my retreat. I didn't post a cryptic jab online. I didn't even tell my colleagues. I just let the silence settle. And for the first time, it felt like freedom. Christmas passed. I spent it alone in my apartment with a cup of chamomile tea and a throw that still carried faint traces of lavender and detergent. I didn't unwrap the gifts I'd prepared. I didn't plug in the tree. I didn't cry either. I just sat still. There was a quiet strength in not going where I wasn't wanted. But the day after Christmas, my phone buzzed, not once but 3 times, my mother. Ignored. Then a text. "Please pick up. You've caused enough trouble." My heart sank. Then another call, this time from Aunt Nora, my dad's sister, the only one who still sent handwritten birthday notes. I answered. "What happened yesterday?" she asked gently. "They're saying you wrecked Christmas, but you weren't even there." I blinked. "I wrecked it." She paused. "Something went down with Caleb's girlfriend, Leela. She left early. There was shouting. Then your name came up." That was all she knew, but it was enough. Later that evening, Aunt Nora called again. She'd gathered more details. Apparently, Leela had seen an old photo of me in their den, probably from a family reunion years ago, and recognized me. "You saved my grandfather," she'd said. "You're Dr. Emily Harper." The room, Nora said, went silent. What happened next wasn't clear, only that Leela asked if I was the sister they mentioned, and whatever she heard made her quietly pack her things and leave. I didn't need specifics. I could picture it perfectly. They likely laughed about me, as always, how I lived in hospitals, how I made things too serious, how I was hard to connect with. Maybe they even recycled that cruel line Caleb once used. "Emily's basically a grim reaper in scrubs." It wasn't new. But this time, someone else was listening. Someone who didn't grow up thinking casual cruelty was just family banter. Someone who remembered the doctor who stayed by her grandfather's side when others had written him off. Someone who saw me without being told how to see me first. That's how I ruined Christmas. By not being there to uphold their narrative, by not showing up to nod politely while they painted me as a burden, by being remembered unexpectedly for the good I'd done for someone outside their circle. 2 days later, my phone rang again. My mother, this time, she didn't greet me. She just dove in, voice tight. "I don't know what you told her, but Caleb's a wreck. Leela blocked him. She won't talk to him." And she posted something online about being disrespected by the family of a woman she respects. I heard clinking in the background. Maybe she was pacing the kitchen, maybe pouring a glass of wine to cope, probably both. "She tagged your picture," she added, like I'd broken a law. I stayed silent. I let her speak. Eventually, she got to the point. "We need you to talk to her, clear up that it was a misunderstanding, no bad intentions." Right, because I was now their crisis manager, fixing the mess for the same people who'd barred me from their table. "She's ruining Caleb's future," my mom said, softer now. "Those art circles she's in, his name's being dragged. You know, that New York scene, he's being ostracized." I almost laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was so absurd. They'd spent years making me invisible, and now the fallout of that invisibility was hitting something they cared about, their reputation. I didn't reply. I just said, "I'll consider it." I didn't consider it. Instead, I found Leela's post. It wasn't bitter. It wasn't theatrical. It was just real. She wrote about the doctor who saved her grandfather, about walking into a family gathering expecting warmth and instead hearing that same woman mocked. She wrote how stunned she was that someone so compassionate could be so belittled by her own family. She didn't name names. She didn't need to. One line stood out. "Some people mask cruelty with warm smiles and festive decorations." But when I saw that photo, I remembered what true kindness looks like, and it wasn't at that table. It spread like wildfire in her network. People shared it, commented, tagged others. And for the first time, no one was calling me difficult or intense. They were saying I mattered. That night, just before bed, my phone buzzed again. A voicemail, not from my mom, not from Caleb, not even from my dad, who only calls when he needs help with his Wi-Fi. It was Leela. Her voice was softer than I expected from the one video Caleb had shared weeks ago, less breezy, less polished, more human. "Hi, I'm so sorry to contact you like this. I got your number from your aunt, hope that's okay. I needed to say something." A long pause. "I didn't know who you were, but I saw your photo. You cared for my grandfather, Henry, years ago. He still talks about you. He says you changed everything. You didn't give up when others did. You were kind, you were there. You made him feel like he was worth something." Another pause. Her voice wavered. "I'm sorry about what happened and what they said about you. I had no idea. I couldn't stay and act like it was okay. So I left." That was it. I played it twice. Then again, and I cried not from sadness, but because, for the first time in years, someone saw me. Not through the lens of family expectations or decades of disregard. Not as the shadow behind the golden child. Just as me. Leela didn't ask for anything, no coffee meetup, no attempt to fix what wasn't hers to repair. She just spoke the truth, and somehow that healed me more than 1,000 hollow apologies from my family ever could. 3 days later, a small envelope arrived. A handwritten note on heavy paper, ink slightly blurred at the edges. Leela wrote more about her grandfather, how he still gardened every weekend, still walked to the local bakery, still told the story of the young doctor who looked him in the eye and said, "You've got more time." She thanked me not just for saving a life, but for showing her what real resilience looked like. I framed the note, placed it by my desk where I write patient charts each night. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel like I had to prove myself. Not to them, not to anyone. Just when I thought things had calmed, my inbox pinged. Subject, "Let's start over." An email signed by all three, my mom, dad, and Caleb, a united front like they were turning in a team assignment. The tone was predictable, the kind of apology that's more about leverage than regret. They didn't say sorry outright. Instead, they noted that tensions got high and they regretted how things might have seemed. In plain terms, "We're still right, but we're scared of the fallout." They proposed a family lunch, neutral ground, an open-hearted talk, they called it. Then in the third paragraph, they slipped it in. They'd greatly appreciate if I reached out to Leela and asked her to delete her post. There it was, the real reason for the lunch. Not reconciliation, but damage control for Caleb's reputation in Leela's art world, to mop up their mess with me as the tool. I didn't reply. The next day, the escalation started. My dad called one of my clinic's directors, someone he'd met at a fundraiser, and said I'd been acting erratically, expressing concern for my stability. Yes, he tried to undermine my career. Thankfully, the director called me immediately, apologized, and assured me my job was safe. So that bridge torched. Then came a group text to extended family, full of vague half-truths. No mention of my exclusion, no mention of their snide remarks, just, "She's fracturing the family, and we're so worried about her well-being." 2 cousins I hadn't spoken to in years texted me. One sent a meditation app discount, in case you're struggling. Finally, their last, desperate move. A visit. It was a calm Sunday afternoon when I heard the knock. I glanced through the peephole. There they were, my parents, Caleb. I opened the door, leaned against the frame, arms folded. "We just want to talk," my mom said softly. I didn't budge because by then I finally got it. They weren't here for me. They were here for the version of me that always fixed their problems. And that version was gone. They stood there, waiting, maybe hoping I'd cave like I used to, that I'd invite them in, make it easy again. But I didn't. After a moment of silence, I said, "No." No explanation, no anger, no show. I shut the door, and I didn't feel guilty. Instead, I brewed a cup of tea, sat at my desk, and looked at Leela's framed note in its simple oak frame. It reminded me that the truest validation often comes from those with no agenda, who see you because they've been paying attention. I thought about the years I'd spent trying to earn the love of a family that only valued me against the image they wanted to project. The golden child, the artist, the one who made them look good. But I wasn't born to make them comfortable. I was born to heal, to hold hands with those facing their final moments, to listen when others look away. And in doing so, I'd made a difference, a real one. I didn't save lives for applause. I didn't stop payments for vengeance. I didn't walk away to make a statement. I walked away because I finally saw the truth, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. There's power in silence, in refusing to justify yourself to those determined to misunderstand you. There's strength in setting boundaries and holding them, in knowing your worth doesn't need a family vote to be real. As I finished my patient notes that night, I felt something I hadn't in years. Peace. So to anyone who's been made to feel too much, too serious, too inconvenient, hear this: you are not too much. You are not the problem. And you never needed to dim yourself to fit someone else's narrative. Write your own. And if this story struck a chord, if you've ever felt unseen by those meant to see you most, take a moment to like, share, or comment. Because sometimes the quietest stories hold the loudest truths. And sometimes not showing up is the most powerful thing you can do.